Hi everyone! Thomas Campion's treatise, A New Way of Making Four Parts and Counterpoint, presents a method of creating above a baseline four-part harmony, which after the vertical spacing of the initial chord is established, allows the voice leading and spacing of subsequent chords to be generated automatically. While not unique, Campion's method reduces from those presented in many earlier texts the possible motions between notes and focuses on creating four-part textures constructed from a complete initial chord and given baseline. Campion's method therefore allows, with some exceptions, four-part progressions to effectively generate themselves. Campion begins by explaining the available bass motions to which his method may be applied. These bass fragments consist of ascending and descending seconds, thirds, and fourths. While Campion explains that an ascending fourth is the same as a descending fifth and vice versa, he doesn't do the same with the seconds and thirds, leaving subsequent authors to point out that similarly a second is the same as a seventh and a third is the same as a sixth. Campion's bass fragments therefore essentially cover all of the possible melodic motions which a bass line may contain. After introducing the bass intervals, Campion then presents this table, stating the numbers refer not only to the relevant intervals above a given bass note, but also their compounds. It is this table which allows four-part progressions to be created. Above this ascending bass fragment, for example, after spacing out the initial chord as shown, he then explains that by following the numbers of the table, the third of the initial chord moves to the doubled root note of the second, the initial chord's fifth degree moves to the second chord's third, and the initial chord's doubled root note moves to the second chord's fifth degree. Campion then presents similar examples for the other two ascending bass fragments. In all of these examples, to generate the second chord, Campion is reading the table from the bottom to the top row. In all of these examples also, the motion of the upper parts either descend, creating contrary motion with the given bass line, or repeat in the second chord one of the first chord's notes. Campion then presents the following examples in which the bass fragments descend and the second chord is generated by reading the table from the top row to the bottom. In all of these examples, the upper parts either ascend, creating contrary motion with the bass, or repeat in the second chord one of the first chord's notes. Campion then applies the method to a complete bass line, explaining that the bass's descending fifths must be treated as ascending fourths. In other words, the table should be read from the bottom to the top row, and the ascending fifths must be treated as descending fourths, reading the table from top to bottom. After talking more about the initial chord's vertical spacing, Campion then states the foregoing rules concerning which direction the table should be read for ascending and descending chord fragments may be reversed. Doing so produces in all the upper parts contrary motion with the bass, and also introduces an element of choice to the part writing. Campion also allows the introduction of smaller note values to fill in melodic fourths. He then presents this example in which the motion of these chords uses what he calls the second way, reading the table in reverse from the first way, reading it as it was initially presented. Using the following example, Campion then introduces inversion, which on the table substitutes this 5 for 6. Where these rising bass motions, if using Campion's first way, would produce root position chords, here using the altered table introduces first inversion harmony. Campion then presents some exceptions, mostly dealing with potential voice leading issues, such as here, where to avoid a melodic augmented second, the alto's line must move to G, thereby approaching the raised leading note from above. Campion also mentions that when a bass note is repeated, the upper parts may move at the composer's discretion, and any of the bass line's melodic intervals may be filled in if desired. Campion then introduces another possible option in which the soprano and bass move in parallel thirds. Here, for example, he includes the standard voice leading resulting when the original table is used, and a variation in which the alto, tenor and bass parts move as before, but the soprano now moves with the bass in thirds. After then discussing how the parallel thirds option may be used, with a first inversion triad moving to root position harmony, Campion briefly discusses suspensions before concluding the counterpoint section of his treatise with a short hymn. This work, intended as an example of what may be achieved with this method, summarizes Campion's previous points. It also highlights an apparent relaxed attitude which Campion has towards hidden consecutives within a texture. Here and here, for example, hidden octaves occur between the tenor and bass, and here hidden fifths are found between the alto and bass. Inclusion of these hidden consecutives, along with the exceptions to his method, perhaps shows that ultimately this way of learning is not complete and is not therefore a shortcut to achieving proficiency in this type of writing. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.